Welcome back to continue our discussion talking about personality and colors. Joining me again, Dahran Goudeau, life coach. Let's jump in. Now, we just talked about oranges and came up with suggestions that parents or adults working with children can do in relation to an orange to kind of help them understand consequences, but also bring out that positive creative energy and the will to do that they have. Let me ask before I get to blue, because I did say I'm going to get to blue next. I want to ask about an adult. Let's say you have an adult who is primarily an orange and in a workplace setting. And living on the edge and just saying whatever comes to your mind or things like that could be problematic. What can we do in the workplace if we realize we have an individual with that type of color personality to bring out the best in them and also help them understand other areas that they could be improved upon, to be more supportive of them and get the best that they have to offer?
I think finding their niche, knowing where they're comfortable. I see a lot of oranges as a supervisor that I would love to put in an RT, a recreational therapist, putting them into the gym, putting them into a place that doesn't put them in a box and make them, don't put them in a position that they're going to do paperwork all the time and sit at the desk, because they're not going to be able to uphold that type of position. You want to put them in a position of, they're people, persons. They'll go out and they'll talk to people. They want to get to know people. They're the life of the job. And so they keep that ball rolling, and that's the kind of job that you want to put them in.
Okay, so even if it involves some degree of paperwork, you want to make sure you have that other component where they can be interactive and maybe come up with recommendations or suggestions of maybe other ways to approach something and get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, they have to have it, because if they don't, you're going to find yourself looking for papers and you can't find it. You're going to find yourself in a position that you can't really hold that position.
Okay, well, let's go into blue. What are blues all about? I know they like the warm and fuzzy, but tell me more about blues.
Warm and fuzzy is good, but blues are very caring people. They don't really like to put people down. They are the caring type personality. They really bring everything in. They try to understand both sides to the problem, and they really try to, they're very emotional at times. They are not seekers, they don't go out and try to find anything. Sometimes you have to offer them and bring them in and make them feel part of a team. You have to be able to talk to them and let them know that you do care about them as much as they do care about you. Blues are very understanding at times, because they'll let people kind of walk over them and run over them a little bit, and so they try to be understanding a little bit too often.
Okay. So those are the individuals, like you said, you really need to connect with them at an emotional level, and they need to know that they have that kind of connection to you.
They need stability
in order to bring out their best features.
Yes, they need stability. They need to know that their ground is level and that there's no one that's going to rock that ground, because they like the structure and they like the consistency of anything that they do. That's in work, that's in relationship, friendships, anything like that. They have to have it.
Okay, and that's a real positive strength, but once again, there are areas that they may need to be aware of, because it could end up being more of a negative, in that in some environments there's not a lot of time or room for a lot of emotional connections. Those things are not encouraged. So to be able to understand the limits of where that might exist, so they don't sort of reflect that on, well, I'm just not appreciated, but this is just not that type of environment. So tell me again, in this respect with blues, about children. Okay, you have a child who's predominantly blue, and you're not. And so this may be the child that is very emotional. When you say something, they really react very deeply, and you're wondering, why are you taking this so seriously? Because I'm just trying to correct you or give. Now, how do we as adults work with a child who's blue, whether it's in a school setting, at home? What do we do?
Push them to kind of come out of that box a little bit. It's okay to be a blue. And I think a lot of times we as parents sometimes tell our children, get over it. It's okay. Deal with it. And that is one of the toughest things, and the one thing that you really don't ever want to do to a blue. You don't want them to feel outcasted. You don't want them to feel like just get over it. It's not a big deal. One of the big things that I would share with parents is to always let them know that their feelings are valid. That is a huge thing. I can't change how you feel, but I can understand you have a right to feel that way. And 9 times out of 10, if you would tell a blue child that I understand that you feel that way and you have a right to feel that way, it severs all the other issues, because at that point you're letting them know that how they feel is valid. And all they want is validation.
Okay, and in that same regard, then you can then take that a little bit further to say why, in this particular instance, that is not, how you were feeling emotionally was not what was meant, or how you kind of say that, look at the environment and don't try to take that into yourself as being not effective or good. So you're kind of helping them balance that other part.
If you start off the conversation by saying, your feelings are valid, and I understand this is why you should feel that way, but let me explain to you what I meant by what I said. When you start off with that understanding, it cuts everything off, and then they will understand, oh, I do understand what you mean now, and that pulls them into the conversation instead of saying, your feelings, I never said that, you're wrong, and get over it. Then they don't feel a part of that family anymore.
Okay. Now let me ask this in relation to adults. Once again, in the workplace environment, you have a person that's predominantly blue. And there's not time for all these emotional connections. It's just not that kind of workplace.
Right.
So how are you going to help sustain the best that they have to give in that workplace setting, but at the same time understanding the limitations of the emotional connections and things such as that? What do you do?
In that aspect, what I do is I find the best part of a blue. And the best part of them is the talking and the conversation and bringing people together. And what I would look at is, letting them know, I saw that. I noticed that you did a great job with that. You can't do it all the time, but if you just acknowledge that they have done something right and that they are doing a good job, just little sticky notes, or just letting them know, hey, a thumbs up, you're doing a great job. I understand that you pushed, your hardest today. That brings them in again, and it doesn't push them out of that situation.
Because sometimes it sounds like, too, with a blue in a workplace setting, if they're answering the phones, for instance, they can be too conversational.
Yes.
And so they may be on the phone for 10 minutes when they're really needing to be able to isolate the concern, be able to deal with that in a cordial and helpful way.
Yes.
But then to move off the phone to get back to other tasks.
And to be able to have them understand that, you know what, that's okay for you to do in this time, but the next time, this is what I need you to do. And you're starting off with that conversation of, I understand why you did that, and I really appreciate it, but the next time, I would like you to try it this way. And that pulls them in, and then they want to listen and want to change.
Excellent. We're going to take another break, and then I want to come back and talk about gold.
Gold. Okay.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.